Hi, welcome to another episode of Firm Foundations Podcast with your host CJ and Tony. Last week we ended with Jacob going into exile for all intents and purposes. His treachery, to some degree, against his brother led to his brother wanting to kill him sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm.
And their mother encourages their father to bless Jacob one more time and send him away to visit relatives far off in Haran and get himself a wife while he's there. Because Esau was already married for some time now. About 23 or so years. And they wanted to make sure that Jacob didn't marry into the local population because of their culture and the wickedness of their ways. So it was a multi-reasoned journey. And we're going to soon find out that it took him a little longer than it should have. We're going to see, growing up in the 80s and 90s, we grew up watching kung fu movies and mafia movies and shows like The Sopranos and learning words like La Cosa Nostra. And these last few chapters really has been giving me those vibes, where you don't know what's going to happen. Somebody might stab somebody in the back, and everybody isn't what they seem, and not everything is as straightforward as they seem, where there's intricacies going on behind the scenes and motivations that kind of illuminate how we should see and interpret what's going on and how it affects us in our lives. There we go. Get your grammar correct. So today we're gonna look into some more going-ons and see how Jacob's trickery gets turned on its head and revisited upon him. It's interesting. If you're a nerd like me, it's going to be interesting to you. If human psyche and the human condition fascinates you as much as it does me, then you're going to find some interesting things. And we're going to dive into some of the more ancient commentators again to see how they're processing things. So, chapter 29, without further ado.
Yeah, we're going to see the old adage come into play. What comes around goes around.
There you go. That's what I was looking for, and I couldn't think of the word.
Because it's a kind of a funny thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll get started at chapter 29. So Jacob went on his journey and came to the land of the people of the east. Now you wanted to say something about this because you said this very first verse had a lot to it.
Yeah. I mean, so what? He got up and left and went to the people of the east. There's several things, right? First thing that comes to mind, which you brought up earlier, is here we see that phrase again, the land of the people of the east. And every time we see people going to the east, it's them being alienated from God. It's them going out in their own strength, being put out to the wilderness in a sense. It's not good. It's where the vagabond lives. It's where the murderer goes. So what's up with that? And And that ties into, well, Jacob has deceived his father
And his brother.
and his brother. And, I mean, granted, his brother had sold him his rights, so it really doesn't matter what he did to him because he was just getting what was rightfully his at that point. But his father also was a willing participant, as we saw.
Right.
Like, there's no way on earth that Isaac didn't know what was going on. And he went along with it. So, but that brings to mind the old question. Does the end justifies the mean? Does the end justify the mean? Good Lord, if I could only talk today. And the answer is a resounding no. Like, the ends do not justify the means. Just because all ends well doesn't mean everything is well. How we do things matters. How we achieve the right results matters. I remember when I was a kid, I don't know, maybe 3rd grade or something, and the teacher wanted us, maybe it was 5th grade, and the teacher wanted, we were in math class, and the teacher wanted us to solve a problem. And I solved it my way. And doing homework with Johnny these days, I learned that my way is what they call the new math or whatever they call it these days. And it was completely legit. It just wasn't. I was just ahead of my time and the teacher was not ready.
Yeah.
And that's not what she wanted. So she deducted points because the method was important. She wanted us to learn the method of solving that problem and not just randomly find an answer or stumble upon. She didn't want us to be the next Sir Isaac Newton coming up with grand mathematical equations. She just wanted to teach us a certain way. And we see that in life time and time again with our when we're put into certain circumstances and we have to make a decision and we know what the outcome needs to be, we just don't know how to get there. And it's our human tendency to resort to the path of least resistance, like
Shortcuts.
water. Shortcuts. And we don't care how that affects anybody else or how it might affect other things going on. And we see this in the workplace a lot, where people say, "Well, let's just do it like this," and then so one department gets the job done, but it messes up everything else for 2-3 other departments, and now it's a big headache. And that's what's going on with Jacob. He made things happen. He fought a good fight for the right reasons and to achieve the right goal, but he didn't do it the right way. So he's about to pay the piper now. But there's also something else here that's just kind of glossed over. Well, it's not even really glossed over. It's not hinted at in this verse itself. We only realize what the magnitude of this verse is by looking at chapter 37, 41, 45, 47, doing some math, coming up with some timelines. And I'm going to spare you the details because, if we do get through all this chapter, it's going to be a long one anyway. So, and by now you all know my proclivity to ramble on. But basically, this verse is hiding 14 years of Jacob's life that is unaccounted for, that we know of. But the sages of Israel had something to say about this. And based on the biblical chronology, there we go, we know that Noah's son and grandson, Shem and Ever, were still alive. And they presumably lived close to where they made landfall after the flood. And So the sages postulated that perhaps Jacob, being the bookish man, the scholar that he was, ended up living with them for 14 years and learning about God from them, learning about the ways of God and what we would call today the Torah of God. And that's great. I wish there was a more concrete, actual biblical quote for that, but there is 14 years missing. What did he do all those years? It just makes sense that he would go and find godly men and learn and do life together with them. But, yeah.
No proof that he did, no proof that he didn't. I guess we could always hope for the best.
Yeah. Can't say it's gospel truth, but I like that theory. Yeah.
So verse 2, and he looked and saw a well in the field, and behold, there were 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks. A large stone was on the well's mouth. On the mouth, okay. That's where I was getting about rolling. We'll get to this in a second, but that's where I was getting about. You roll the stone away.
Yeah.
But it's on the well's mouth. Now all the flocks would be gathered there, and they would roll the stone from the well's mouth, water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. So we talked about this rolling the stone, and it just never made sense to me. You either lift the stone up off the well of a mouth and maybe roll it away there, but it's just odd to me how they say roll the stone from the mouth. It's like my other thought when we were talking about this earlier was perhaps this well was in a covering, and that covering had a stone in front of the doorway where they rolled it away and then got water out of it.
Yeah.
But that's not the case.
Yeah,
Anyway, that was my bad. That just make common sense to me. You lift a stone.
But it's a valid question because, it could be that it was maybe a cave and they just, close the entrance and, you open the cave and there's water there. But,
so,
whatever.
As we continue, and Jacob said to them, my brethren, where are you from? And they said, we are from Haran. Then he said to them, do you know Laban, son of Nahor? And they said, we know him. So he said to them, is he well? And they said, he is well. And look, his daughter Rachel is coming with the sheep. Then he said, look, it is still high day. It is not time for the cattle to be gathered together. Water the sheep and go and feed them. But they said, we cannot until all the flocks are gathered together. And they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we water the sheep. Now, you had talked about earlier about why is Rachel leading these sheep? Why didn't Laban have a manservant doing this? Or apparently he didn't have any sons. At least it doesn't say he did.
Yeah.
But
or even himself.
Yeah. And I just mentioned that. Well, maybe she wanted to do it because it was something she liked doing, and she just said, "Hey, Dad, I'll take care of watering the sheep."
Yeah, it could be, but it just speaks volumes. About a man's character, either depending on where you want to take it, right? Or depending on which way you want to look at it. If we were being charitable, it's like, it's girl power, feminine empowerment, and okay, do something that's traditionally a man's job, whatever. Or it could be that he was just a lazy turd and was letting his daughter do it, putting her in harm's way. Because culturally, in those days and in that area till this day, you don't put women in close contact, young women, young girls, in close contact with men who could take advantage of them and force their will on them. And you protect your wives and your daughters, and that's why a lot of things that are done outside of the house are done by men, and women take care of the chores around the house in the camp. So which one is Lavan? What's going on? And I mean, as we're going to see later on, his personality will suggest that he was just a unpolished turd, and
Lazy dog.
yeah, and doesn't look favorable for him. However, there's a couple other things about the well itself and what's going on. First of all, and this is my conjecture, but the fact that the well has a stone on its mouth, and the fact that they say we can't water the sheep until all the flocks are gathered together, it reminds me of Jesus Christ. He is the water of life. He is the well from which we draw the living waters. And he famously rolled the stone away, allowing the entire world to come and drink from those waters. And until that time, Israel didn't have access to those waters either, because it was not the fullness of time. An important concept. The salvation had not been opened up to the same degree to the rest of the nations. It's as if God's saying, even Israel has to wait to reap the benefits of the Messiah, the King of Israel, until the whole world is allowed to come and join. And he's the one that rolls the stone away, allowing people access to the mercy seat of heaven. Just like this stone is blocking the way from people benefiting from the water. But that's the gospel for you in a nutshell. However, it tells the stone being there tells us something about the people of the land and the chieftains of the land. Whoever was in charge of this land didn't want everybody to just willy-nilly drink water and benefit from the well. Why? It's a power move, right? He's asserting dominance through control over a life-giving substance. And it also tells something. So it tells us something about stinginess, about not being generous, and saying, hey, we live at the second closest, at the point where the two rivers that frame Mesopotamia are closest to each other than at the Gulf of Persia. So at the Gulf of Persia, the two rivers meet and they flow into the sea. But the waterheads, the river heads, are close to one another in and around Haran. And there's all these even though it's a desert place, there's all these subterranean river flows. So there's water, and that's why people are able to live there. That's why people are able to raise sheep and cattle there, and water fields, and that's why they're able to. I was just looking up drinking and the culture around alcohol in the day, and they're growing barley, they're growing wheat, they're growing everything that they can eat and turn into alcohol, whether it's mead or beer or wine or other liqueurs. And there's no reason to be stingy other than to assert dominance. And so where I'm getting at is, several episodes ago we were talking about, and we've actually talked about it several times, but the real sin of Sodom and Gomorrah, other than just being a hotbed for homosexuality and, well, they gave the name to the act, sodomy, and other sexual sins. But it was being stingy. It was there. What really drove God to annihilate in judgment the plains cities was their unwillingness to love the stranger and take care of the widow and the orphan and the needy. And we're seeing the same spirit creeping northeast and penetrating Haran now. And we're going to see this in Lavan's life in a little bit. But it also talks about the people too. Because what are you doing at the well in the middle of the day, at the hottest hour, and you're not watering your animals because what? There's some guards there maybe, or whatever the case may be. Why aren't you, if that's the case, if you have to wait, why aren't you feeding your animals, grazing them out in the pastures, and you're just holding them there? It talks about a level of laziness and carelessness and a lack of diligence with the work that they've been entrusted. And the Bible tells us to do everything as if unto the Lord, with the same diligence that we would have if serving the Lord. We need to have that same diligence when we're working in our day jobs, when we're working for somebody else. And these guys don't have that. It's a problem. It's painting a picture of the place Jacob is going to be calling home for the next 22 years.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking about this. We were talking about Rachel out there with the sheep. And it only talks about Rachel and Leah, children of Laban. Don't know if those are the only two children he had. But further on in Exodus, we're going to find Jethro only had 7 daughters.
Yeah.
And they were sheep. They tended the sheep.
Yeah.
So, and we know Jethro would probably had money. I'm guessing. But could have been the same scenario. He only had those two daughters. Yeah. I would have thought that Leah would have been, since she's the oldest, that she would have been leading these. But instead it's Rachel.
The sages actually discuss that too, and they say, well, perhaps it was because her eyes, as we're going to see, her eyes were weak. Perhaps being out in the sun was detrimental to her. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I know thank God, lately it hasn't happened, but when I'm outside too long, it does trigger migraines sometimes. Maybe she has something like that going on. But
I don't know, that just came to mind.
But yeah, I mean,
why Rachel was out there, because he didn't have any sons to do it.
yeah.
And if he didn't have a lot of money, apparently he didn't, because we're going to see when Jacob comes along, he ends up becoming a blessing to Laban.
Yeah.
And
That just brought a question to my mind. Isaac, when Abraham sent Eliezer out there, he's to get a wife for Isaac, which was Laban's sister. He sent out a whole caravan,
right?
untold riches, and they gave them all to Laban's family. Where did all that money go? Again, speaks to his family and him and their character, I think.
Maybe so.
Or maybe they just had really bad drought while they're living right next to a river. I don't know.
So, verse 9. Now while he was still speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to pass, when Jacob saw Rachel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother.
You notice how he keeps saying Laban, his mother's brother?
Yeah. That's kind of funny. But then Jacob kissed Rachel and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's relative and that he was Rebekah's son. So she ran and told her father. Now, either Jacob was a Samson and had the strength to roll the stone away off the well, which, if that's the case, if one person can do it, then what was the point in even putting it on there? Or he got some people to help him and didn't say. It just says Jacob rolled the stone away.
Yeah.
Like he did it himself.
Yeah. Again, so apparently there's no guards there. So why didn't the shepherds do it before that?
They were waiting for Rachel. It's going to take the stone away now. There she is. All right, somebody to take the stone off the well and we can water.
Or maybe they were waiting for her to show off their prowess and impress her.
Oh.
That might have been a reason too.
And Jacob beat him to the draw. But I know I was laughing about this, but it keeps repeating Laban's mother's.
Yeah. And the sages discuss that a bit too, going back and forth why it says that, because it's obnoxiously in your face.
Yeah, 3 times it's repeated.
And to be honest, I want to think a little bit about that a little more, because
It's in the same verse. It's repeated 3 times.
yeah.
Laban, his mother's brother. Laban, his mother's brother. Don't forget that it was Laban, his mother's brother.
Yeah. It's very, we're family.
Mm-hmm.
We're family. You don't do this to family.
So, and we talked about this earlier, Jacob kisses Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely, it was a kiss of family.
Yeah.
Even my family, if we, like when I go down to visit my parents, whatever, we'll kiss each other. Usually on the cheek. My sisters like to kiss mouth to mouth lips. But, anyway. It's an Italian thing.
Russians do it too.
Right.
Between men. It's
Yeah.
disconcerting, but
Yeah. But, so I think he kissed her on the cheek, or it could have been on the mouth, who knows. The intent of the kiss, I highly doubt was affectionate,
Yeah.
or if you want to say sexual. I think it was a, hello, I've found my relative. I'm so glad to see you. On and on. And then she runs and tells her father.
Just like her aunt did.
So we're fixing to get into some fun stuff here. But she goes and tells her father. So because she knows, apparently, he's been waiting for this moment.
Yeah.
We had talked about, Laban waiting for Isaac to have his children
Yeah.
so that they could be married.
Yeah, because if y'all haven't noticed, that's kind of the pattern here, where people marry their cousins and nieces, and it's keeping it all in the family. So it's reasonable to expect that he would have expected visitors sometime.
There had to be some communication, you think, between the families off and on.
Yeah.
And apparently Laban may have told his daughters, hey, Isaac's has a son, has two sons, get ready.
Yeah.
And Rachel's so excited, hey, we finally have one.
Yeah. And that's we're gonna talk a little bit more about that once we get to the second half of the chapter. But yeah, she had a get up and go in her.
She did. Apparently, he must have been a pretty good looking guy. Maybe she was kind of interested in him too.
Yeah.
So then it came to pass when Laban heard the report about Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him and kissed him, and brought him to his house. So he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, surely you are you are my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a month. So apparently they've been, after they get, of course he kisses him too, which is the proper greeting.
Yeah. I mean, for our audience that is not familiar with the Middle East, till this day, when people get together, when they greet each other, they will kiss, in most places, both cheeks. And that's, and shake hands or hug, and that's how they greet one another. In Persia, it's even, more, where they'll kiss each cheek and then the other cheek one more time. So it's 3-kiss salute. But yeah.
So here's, they've been with each other for a month. So apparently Jacob has told him all about what's been going on. Maybe not his deceitful side, but, hey, mom's doing great. Your sister's, good health, blah, blah, blah. Isaac, I'm Isaac's son, along with my brother Esau, and I didn't do him dirty. But I'm sure he's caught him up with family things going on.
Yeah.
And why he's there also.
Yeah. Because you got to think about it from Laban's point of view. Laban was there when Eliezer came to pick Rebekah up for Isaac, for Jacob's father, when they got married. And, he remembers all the riches that Abraham sent with Eliezer to pick up the daughter. So he's like, okay, same family. Let's go see what they got. Nothing. It's just this one guy.
You got a pocket full of change.
and that's one thing the sages say. He patted him down extra to make sure he had some coin on him, and nothing. So that's why he says, you're bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Come stay with me anyways. Whatever. What am I going to do? Turn you like. He's like, okay, I'm a selfish little booger, but even I'm not going to put him out because of that. Because we're family. We are family, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
But if you want to read verse 15, because that's going to trigger a question related to verse 14.
Then Laban said to Jacob, "Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for nothing? Tell me, what should your wages be?"
So let me get this straight. You spent a month there. You didn't say nothing about, I want to marry your daughter. Nothing.
Well, it's assumed, though.
It's assumed, but still, why did you come empty-handed? I understand that, you came here in under less than ideal circumstances, but this is highly irregular. You can show up here, you ain't got no chocolates, you ain't got no flowers, you ain't got no bride price. What's going on?
Well,
and he didn't say nothing. He didn't say, "Do you mind if I stay with you and work my way and earn your daughter's hand?" That conversation hasn't happened for a month. What is Jacob thinking? What's his process? Is it tied to maybe the 14 years he spent elsewhere? Could it be that he was like, maybe this whole God's plan is just too much for me. That maybe I shouldn't start a family. Maybe I like this scholarly life better than the husband life. What is he thinking?
Personally, I know it says that, he seen Rachel and kissed her. Now, I believe that was a relative kiss on the cheek, glad to finally find the family. But as we see later on, he loves Rachel. So I think first contact with Rachel and seeing how beautiful she was, that's like, that sealed the deal for him.
I mean, he's used to beautiful women too, because his grandmother was beautiful, even in her 90s. His mother was beautiful, even in her 90s, turning heads wherever they go. Of course, he has a proclivity for beauty. He's used to it. Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Verse 16. Now Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah. The name of the younger was Rachel. Leah's eyes were delicate, but Rachel was beautiful of form and appearance. Now Jacob loved Rachel, so he said, "I will serve you 7 years for Rachel, your younger daughter." And Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than I should give her to give." Talk about speaking.
Words are hard.
Okay, well, let's do 19 over again. And Laban said, "It is better that I give her to you than that I should give her to another man. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years for Rachel, and they seemed only a few days to him because of the love he had for her. Now, we had discussed about this, Rachel being the younger, and then I'm going to go back a little bit more, but Rachel being the younger, it's customary for the elder daughter to be married first. But Jacob's trying to forego that tradition. And reason being, because back here on 17, it says Leah's eyes were delicate. And you said another word for that.
Weak.
Weak. Because of what it says, delicate, in the New King James, I take on the fact that her eyes were delicate, and it seems to me that they would be beautiful, but the rest of her face just was not joining that fact.
Yeah.
You said weak. You know what translation that was?
I want to say it was the Stone Edition Jewish publication.
Okay. And you were saying that it could be an indication that her eyes could have been cross-eyed, maybe not, her vision wasn't as well.
Yeah.
because of her not tending the sheep like Rachel did because she couldn't stand the sun.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm gonna find out some more stuff here, but you know, whether they were weak or not, or weird or not, Jacob just didn't find her attractive enough
Yeah.
to knowingly that she was the elder. He was trying to pass over that, trying to skip that.
Yeah.
Which is his normal way of doing things. You know, he never went by the rules.
Yeah.
He was always the if you want to call him the trickster, the deceiver, the manipulator, and even if he did spend 14 years under Shem, he still didn't learn
Yeah. Yeah.
tradition, rightful places.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I mean, maybe he was slightly autistic. And I'm saying that out of utmost respect and love. I don't see autism as a negative thing. It can be if it's too far.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, it affects people in certain ways. And one thing is the inability to grasp social norms. So and he reflects that at every turn, and he's book smart, and that's another thing that we see with people on the spectrum, that they tend to be very smart, very book smart, socially awkward ducks, and like a month you're at somebody's house for a month, and you still haven't auditioned for a job, and you still haven't going back to that's a month, and that made me think of a Turkish saying, I'm gonna translate it if I get the words out of my mouth. A guess is good for 3 days. After that, a guess is like a fish. It's good for 3 days. After that, it stinks. Here we are.
that's the good stuff there.
9 times the shelf life of a fish, and they're just now talking about that, and it just gives me the impression that something developmentally, in some areas he's very strong, in some areas he's very weak, like you said, and he still hasn't learned it, and that just gave me the impression that maybe there's something going on, and they're for a lack of a better term, they're inbred in one sense. They're grandfather married his niece, father married his cousin, and and again, this is not a negative. I'm not going down that trope of Mississippi, Alabama, West Virginia, or Habsburg's royalty. I'm not going down that venue with this. I'm just making an observation that perhaps there's some medical explanation to this.
Maybe so. Okay. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Give me my wife, for my days are fulfilled, that I may go into her." And Laban gathered together all the men of the place and made a feast. Now it came to pass in the evening that he took Leah his daughter and brought her to Jacob, apparently with a veil over her face, a heavy veil. Sorry.
Heavy veil.
And he went into her, and Laban gave his maid Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a maid. So it came to pass in the morning that, behold, it was Leah. And he said to Laban, what is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rachel that I served you? Why then have you deceived me? And Laban said, it must not be done so in our country, to give the younger before the firstborn. I'm going to stop there because there's a lot of stuff that's happened here.
Yeah.
And as I was telling you earlier that Jacob has just now understood, I think, what comes around goes around.
Yeah.
Now he has been deceived. He's been tricked, manipulated.
Uh-huh.
And then at the same time, the way his father was manipulated by him with everything except for the voice,
Yeah.
Jacob has been tricked.
Yeah.
And we talked about, if he goes into the tent with her, does he not? Because right back here it talks about Rachel was beautiful of form and appearance. So she had apparently she had a very nice body for whatever they considered nice back then. If he held on to her, which I'm sure he's hugged her more than once than when they first met, then he would have felt the difference between the two. Most likely they weren't exactly the same. Maybe height-wise, whatever. And only if Leah said nothing that whole night, which I find unusual. So he would have been tricked, or his father noticed the difference in their voice between him and Esau,
Yeah.
but still went along with it.
Yeah.
So either he didn't hear her speak the whole night and consummated the marriage.
And what happened to the lanterns and candles? Like things that people had.
She was shy. That's, so
The moonlight.
this whole thing just blows up in his face with
Yeah.
exactly what he did to Isaac,
Yeah.
being deceived and tricked.
Yeah, and going back to the discussion about Leah, Ashley, just remember that. Kind of wanted to make that point. It's when it says her eyes were weak.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the commentaries say that it was weak because she had wept so much in prayer, because like you said, it was expected that Isaac's children would come knocking for the brides. And perhaps, like you said, there was communication between families. Perhaps she heard what kind of a man Esau was, and Esau being the older, and Leah herself being the older. Like Lavan just said, the eldest get married first.
Mm-hmm.
So she maybe have been praying so hard for years that Esau wouldn't be her husband. and that's why her eyes had grown weak from all the tears, all the pain and anguish. And now we're going to see, stuck with Jacob. And she got her prayer, but she didn't get her wish.
So she didn't want to get married to Bigfoot.
She didn't want to get married to Bigfoot.
Some hairy person here.
But this brother is so much better in so many ways, but she's going to struggle a long time. She's going to get him in the end. We're going to talk about that later down the line, but he's not all she was hoping for either.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like you said, he was deceived the way he deceived his father. And Leah, I feel for her, as we're going to see.
Well, yeah. Well,
But yeah, the same thing that he did has happened to him, and how? And we're still left scratching our heads. How? So was he a willing participant in this? Because there's no way he didn't know. And what was his thought process? Did they cut?
he was blinded by love.
Well, not by love to that one.
For Rachel, he was in a big hurry to.
But
I think did I get through 26?
yeah,
Okay. I'll repeat 26. It must not be done so in our country to give the younger before the firstborn. Fulfill her week, and we will give you this one also for the service which you will serve me still another 7 years. Then Jacob did so and fulfilled her week. So he gave him his daughter Rachel as wife also. And Laban gave his maid Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as a maid. Then Jacob also went into Rachel, and he also loved Rachel more than Leah, and he served with Laban still another 7 years. So we talked about the fulfilling the week,
yeah,
which was the norm for people getting married.
yeah.
That they were off. He was off work for a week to be
Honeymoon.
husband, honeymoon, and when we talked about this coinciding with Daniel, with a week is 7 years.
Yeah. So etymologically, it's interesting. The word for week is shavua, and it means to be sevened. So you take something, and you multiply it by 7. So it's not necessarily 7 days. It can be 7 years, and not here, but in the Bible, in certain places we see that play out. So how do we tell the difference between 7 days and 7 years when the term is the same term? It's in the context. This is in the context of marriage and a wedding and its aftermath. So we know it's talking about 7 days. It's talking about a proper week as we would understand it as English speakers. But for those who've never heard of this before, there are portions of the Bible where a week is actually just referring to 7 years, and that's when, and we can tell that because the context is long-term events, prophetic events, stuff that's going to happen over not a few days, but generations even, depending on the instance we're talking about. Like you said, Daniel's prophecy famously is about 70 weeks, and the context makes it clear that it's 77-year terms, a total of 490 years, which is broken up as 483 years and 7 years. And we'll get to that when we get to that. But this was a good place to make mention of that fact. So when we're reading the Bible, let's just, keep an eye out for context. This is why we go so deep and talk about motives and what were they thinking and what's going on, because we're trying to read the context to better understand, and so that we don't fall into well, I wasn't actually going to talk about this, but recently there was a prophecy coming out of South Africa, and I don't remember the gentleman's name, talking about, the rapture is going to happen just a week and a half ago. And, well, here we are, post Rosh Hashanah, post Yom Kippur, and we're still here. And he was proven to be a false prophet. And the way we avoid falling for scoundrels and charlatans and false prophets, like the mad prophet of Arabia and the false Messiah Bar Kokhba and the false Messiah Shabtai Shvi and others is by close reading and turning every stone, even when it doesn't seem like it's much. So it's good practice.
There was one of the YouTube channels I just happened to watch. I don't know if it was the same guy that you're talking about, but he had predicted that the Messiah, that the second coming was the week and a half ago.
Yeah.
But he came on and said, I was wrong. I made a mistake and I apologize for it.
Oh no, not the same guy, because
Not
the same guy,
okay.
the same guy went on one of the same podcasts that he was on beforehand. One of the South African podcasts. Two ladies do it. I don't know them. I haven't watched the podcast itself. I've watched clips from it on other people's reaction videos, so I can't really speak to the depth of it. But I do remember him clear as day saying, why am I going to apologize when I heard the word of God, and I am speaking the exact words of God. It's just we understood, and he gave a complete cockamamie answer explaining why it should be actually the 6th and the 7th, or the 7th and the 8th, and even that was completely wrong of October. So he's expecting it to happen, the rapture to happen.
Now it's happening in a few days again.
Yeah, because misunderstanding about which calendar God was using. He wasn't using a biblical calendar. He was using the Julian calendar. Really.
Okay. You know.
But even then, he got the Julian calendar dates wrong in his second interview also. So.
Okay. Well, I didn't think they were the same, but I just want to say kudos to the guy to apologize and admit his mistake.
Yeah, I mean.
And I hope God blesses that.
Yeah,
You know?
I mean, the Bible says we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But that day, speaking of, once we are translated into glory, that we will know as we are known. As we're known by God perfectly. We will have perfect knowledge when we're on the other side of the great divide. But so there's no shame in making mistakes. We all make mistakes.
Right.
Even prophets make mistakes.
So I was talking to my wife about this kind of thing, and she asked, why? And I said, the problem with people prophesying, and maybe they do hear from God, the problem is that they want to inject their own ideas also.
Yeah.
Because, either just for that short bit of fame or whatever the case may be. And therein lies the problem with prophecies, is people injecting their own thoughts and hopes into what God is trying to say.
Yeah.
And they just mess it all up,
Yeah.
and then it makes them look like a liar, and it also makes God look like a liar.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's why that curse against prophecies, that's why God said, don't listen to false prophets, because they're still wrong.
yeah, the best thing when it comes to, and this is specifically for the rapture and end times related stuff, the best thing anyone can do or say is that, hey, we know biblically speaking, every major event regarding God's salvation plan is tied to biblical feasts, and they provide us a template and a way of understanding and thinking about divine truths. So Rosh Hashanah is coming up. The Feast of Trumpets is coming up. Let's be aware, because the Feast of Trumpets is the herald of not only the Messiah's birth back in the day, but also his second coming and it's tied to the rapture. If he had just said that, that would have been perfect. That would have been perfect. Perfectly theologically sound and timely for the season we were in. But he just had to disqualify himself by interjecting his own imaginations. And that's unfortunate. However, for those who repent, there's grace. For those who double down, well, there's... Well, let's just hope he repents before it's too late.
We're in 31, I believe, verse 31. When the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. So Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben. For she said, the Lord has surely looked on my affliction. Now therefore my husband will love me. Then she conceived again and bore a son, and said, behold, because the Lord has heard that I am unloved, he has therefore given me this son also. And she called his name Simeon. She conceived again. Wow, she was busy.
Yeah.
And bore a son, and said, now this time my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. Therefore his name was called Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, now I will praise the Lord. Therefore she called his name Judah. Then she stopped bearing. She was a baby punching mama.
Yeah.
And I think she was, obviously she was in love with him, with Jacob.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But she was trying to buy his love through children, so to speak.
Yeah.
Maybe this time,
Yeah.
surely this time.
Yeah.
And then on this last one, she never mentioned it, him. She said, now I will praise the Lord.
Yeah.
Jacob was not included in this last birth. I think part of that reason is because this is Judah, who Christ comes through. So instead of hoping for something that is never going to come, she gives thanks to God. And I don't know if it has any correlation with Christ being from the tribe of Judah, but this child was not dedicated, so to speak, to Jacob in receiving something that she'll never get, but it was she was honoring God through who later on the Messiah will come through.
Yeah. Like you pointed out, Judah is he's going to be the progenitor of the Messianic lineage. And it has to be tied to this event. His name is Judah. His name means praise. And we praise God through the Messiah. We come to God through the Messiah. Jesus said that no one can come to the Father except through me. I am the way, the truth, the life. The nations of the look, especially for my Jewish brethren out there that are listening. God, the God of Israel, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is praised among the nations through the Messiah, the King of Israel, who came from the tribe of Judah. He is praised by that name. And nothing God does is a coincidence. That has to be... But again, my heart goes out to Leah. Like you said, for years, she chases after her husband's love. And that makes me think, what kind of a man makes his wife fight for his love? Mm-hmm. And we see this all the time in marriages today, where the husband or the wife, and yeah, wives do that to their husbands too, where they leave them feeling unloved, unwanted for years, and the good ones fight for their marriage and their love, and unfortunately so many fail, and marriages suffer and fail because of that. Families get broken up. But today my challenge is going to be the husbands listening. What kind of a husband are we? Do we make our wives strive for our love and affection? Or do we lavish our love upon them? Jesus said to the husbands, love your wives, or through Paul, he says this, love your wives as Christ loved his church. That means without reservation. That means without a need to strive and fight for. That means without limitations, to the point of death. And Jacob is failing Leah in this so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Now, earlier I alluded to the fact that later on she will get her husband. And there's an interesting little tidbit here that there's a discussion, why did God allow Laban to trick and Leah to trick Jacob? And it's clear that he was supposed to be with Rachel from the very beginning. Like, it's love at first sight. But he needed to marry Leah too, and that's weird for us when we think about it, because we know that God's best plan for marriage is that it's between one man and one woman, not between two men or two women, not between one woman and five men, or one man and four women, like the followers of the mad prophet from Arabia says, or the mad prophet from daggone Utah. But we know that we've discussed this before, where we know that, okay, God allows polygamy, but it wasn't his plan. But in this circumstance, it seems like it was his plan from the beginning. And that raises a question, why? And then we look into the children and the end of the lives of these patriarchs and matriarchs, and we realize something interesting, is that from Rachel was born Joseph. And Joseph he rose to the second highest office in Egypt and saved millions of lives during a time of famine by the wisdom and the prophetic gift that God gave him. So in one sense, Rachel is tied to this life, this physical world that we live in, both because of their love at first sight and the carnal instincts that played into it, the Jacob's natural tendencies and like many men, to seek out beauty and beautiful women, and through her son, who held office and did work on this side of eternity to save millions of lives. But Leah, if we look at her and her children, she's tied to Jacob's eternity, the life to come. And her sons, like you pointed out earlier, Levi and Judah, Levi and Judah, Levi and Judah, they are tied to spiritual endeavors and the life to come. Levi the tribe of Levi is where the Levites and the priests came from, and they ministered in the tabernacle and in the temple, and they were God's representatives on earth in some fashion, and humans and humanity's representation before God, as they stood in the divide and offered prayers daily, multiple times a day, and sacrifices multiple times a day to cover up the sins of Israel, and along with Israel, the sins of the world, really, and to cover up and postpone the judgment. And Judah is, well, he's the ancestor of the Davidic line and the Messianic line that would come from David and Solomon, and later on their descendants, until Yeshua the Messiah, until Jesus Christ. And in that sense, Judah is tied not just to earthly kingdoms, but to the spiritual salvation of the entire world. And what do we find as their lives come to an end? Even though Rachel was secure in Jacob's love for her, and Leah strove for it for years, decades, Rachel was not buried in the cave of Machpelah with Jacob and the other patriarchs and the matriarchs, but Leah was. In the end, she got her husband. But in the meanwhile, as long as she strived, she kept striving and giving birth. And later on she'll have more kids again, but for this time, the Lord is making a very clear point of delineation, a boundary. He's drawn a boundary in this verse when he says, then she stopped bearing. It's as if, okay, she's not going to have any more kids. Later on we find out she does, but why does it say then she stopped bearing as soon as she gives praise to God? It was like, okay, bearing is like bearing a burden. It's like working. It's literally going into labor again and again and again, and she's been given rest from her labor the moment she praised God. The moment she put the world aside and said, okay, Lord, blessed be your name. That's when her labor stops. And it happens with what? The Messianic line coming into the world. And I don't remember the details. I'll have to look it up, and I didn't. But there's a portion in the Talmud that speaks about something that impedes Israel's ability to move in, to walk in and partake in the week of the sun. Which is interesting because it's not sun as in S-U-N, it's sun, S-O-N, Haben, the sun. And again, the week of the sun. What is the week of the sun? Well, when we get to Daniel and when we get to Revelation, we will know what exactly it's talking about. And it's fascinating that the one book written by the sages of Israel that's refused and rejected by the church is talking about this. A book where a majority of the source material, not the source material, but the sages that were the sources for a lot of the discussions in it, do not openly accept the Messiah. but it's clear that some of them did, and this is one of those lines, prophetic lines, that they snuck into it under the radar without the rest understanding. But I don't feel comfortable with my level of knowledge right now to get into too much detail about it. But it's interesting that this is when the striving ends. This is when the labor ends. Is when she comes to God in praise that has a connection to the Messiah, who is yet to be born as of yet. And she might not have even known that connection. But it's out of praise. And when we enter into the presence of the Lord with praise, we can rest. It's the Sabbath rest.
You know, this just came to mind. He's married to Leah first. And then 7 years later, he's married to Rachel.
Actually, he's married 1 week later, but he works for another 7 years for Rachel. He gets the payment up front.
Well, never mind. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, because fulfill her week, verse 27, and we will give you this one also for the service which you will serve with me still another 7 years. Then Jacob did so and fulfilled her week, talking about Leah's week, their honeymoon. So he gave him his daughter Rachel as wife also.
So I was thinking he was saying fulfilling his week with Leah.
Yeah.
And then serve 7 years and get Rachel. That's how I read it.
Yeah.
So 7 years between the marriage.
I've done that in the past too, but it's actually only a week between the marriages, but then he served another 7 years for
Okay, so
that.
well, that just changes everything. Never mind about my comment I was going to make then.
Sorry.
I thought it was 7 years later. I was just going to say he's with Leah for 7 years and not have any children. So did he just kind of like, yeah, I know you're my wife, but you know.
But he's had all these kids.
Well, I was thinking 7 years later, when he marries Rachel, now they're gonna now it's a competition.
Gotcha.
Who's gonna have children?
Gotcha.
You know, and so Leah was the only one that could bear children because Rachel was barren.
Yeah. Rachel, it seems, was barren for the 7 years while he was paying her off.
Mm-hmm. So neither one of them had children.
No, Leah had children during those 7 years, but Rachel was barren.
Okay. So that just kind of just throws the whole wrench in my thoughts because, like I said, I thought it was 7 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
It does get. That's why we do close reading, because, how many times have I done the same thing where I read something, I misunderstand it, and then you point it out, or I was like, oh, 1 second, I misunderstood, or this is why it's important to study with a friend and, make use of whatever other tools are available, like videos like this.
So I blame myself on this. We never did stop in the middle and.
I'm just as much to blame.
Sometimes I just get so involved.
Yeah.
And I know it's happened more than once, and it's not the priority of making sure people know who we are. I mean, got the address right there.
Yeah.
The priority is getting the word out and to explain it the best way we know how.
Yeah.
And we've always offered people to, hey, email us, send us a letter or whatever if you have other thoughts or if you want to correct us. As you have mentioned many times, that we are not too good to be corrected. The main thing is getting the full truth out.
Yeah.
And by not We don't purposely give any false information, but in the same aspect, we're not perfect.
Yeah.
And we need the feedback to let us know that, hey, we think you're right on track. We think that you should have said this, or I believe you made a mistake in representing this person this way. It's just like how you corrected me. we all need correction so that we don't get too arrogant in our ways. And I think it was night before last. Wednesday night, my wife corrected me on something, and I said I sit corrected, and
That was the one time for this year, right?
I always make one mistake every year, right?
Yeah.
But you've got to have an open heart and an open mind, and the willingness to be corrected, because it doesn't make you. The easiest word I know. It doesn't make you stupid, because if you can admit that you make a mistake and can be corrected, that makes you a better person, I think.
Yeah.
So.
A better person, a more mature person, and it helps build. Like the other day, we were talking with Johnny. Johnny, my son, has a problem with failure, and when things get tough, he likes to blow it off and run away, like most kids do. It doesn't help that he is also autistic, but we just sat down and said, "Hey, buddy, that's part of learning. That's part of. You can't do everything perfectly right off the bat. You have to, practice, make mistakes, learn how to fix those mistakes, and that's how you get better. That's how you, because when you're playing ball and he can't catch it, he gets mad and runs away. Well, if you don't constantly practice catching the ball, you're not going to be able to.
Mm-hmm.
I still can't. and the same thing goes with learning and anything and doing anything, any job. And like you said, that's we are acutely aware of our limitations, and we are willing to learn from you as much as we hope we can help you learn. And that's why we've previously multiple times said we would like it to be a two-way street. So please comment, like, subscribe, share, all the good stuff. That's how you tell YouTube that this is a valuable program, and it lets them know that, hey, we should put this in front of other people. And like you said, that's our goal, to share the gospel of Christ and the knowledge of God with as many people as possible. And this is just simply the most expedient way of doing that, is because we can't go and preach in every village and city and town all around the world. But this video can, and with your help we can make that happen. So please, but also help us by correcting our mistakes. If you think we've made a mistake, we are willing to learn. We've had some conversations with people commenting in especially our shorts. I don't know why. Maybe it's because people have short attention spans nowadays, but
I know I do.
I caught myself having a problem with that too. Just flipping through videos, getting bored after a few seconds. But where was I? Oh, people, a lot more people watch our shorts than our long form videos. And we've had conversations with some people before, mostly people that don't believe in Jesus and don't believe in God. And one of them was about the differences between the transatlantic slave trade, Islamic slave trade, and biblical slavery, and what God's purpose is regarding slavery, getting rid of it. Why he allows it, but puts all these rules and regulations around it to make it unprofitable, so that people will stop practicing it. And it's fun and challenging. And then, of course, we always love it when somebody says, "Amen, he's coming back." That was the latest comment on one of the videos, and we said, "Amen, Lord Jesus, come." We can learn from you. We know that, and we would like to. So let's do this together. Also,
the reason why this address is in front of you here is number one, to respond to us if you would rather write a letter instead of emailing or whatever, for any kind of corrections or salutations or disgruntledness, whichever. But also to let us promote your church, your synagogue, by sending us a T-shirt that has the information on there, saying who your church is, or a hat. We would love to advertise, free advertisement for your church, for your synagogue, as long as that your church is, Bible believing. Nothing added, nothing taken away. We're very, very particular about that. We do not support Mormonism, Hinduism, any of those other isms.
Yeah, JWs, sorry.
Right. So, if you're interested in having free advertisement, we would be more than happy to wear your T-shirt. Several episodes at a time, and you can't beat free advertisement.
Yeah,
for sure.
Especially when it's on YouTube, because when you look at the number of likes or views that a video has gotten, all you see is an aggregate number. 5 people liked it, 100 people liked it, 1,000 people watched it, whatever. And it might seem not that many, not that much, but when you look on the back end where we can see, you see there's people from India, people from Germany, Britain, Kenya, Uganda, Iraq, and Syria, and China, and Japan, and Korea, all over the world. And if you're there, if you're ministering in any one of these places, let us help you if you're comfortable, if it's safe for you to share your location and information. We can also, depending on the videos, see which cities people are tuning in from. Mm-hmm. And it's mind-boggling, the variety. And as the more you like, subscribe, and share, the more people will see this, and then perhaps somebody in your city or somebody visiting your city will see and say, "Hey, I'm going to Grand Rapids, and I would like to check this church out." Or, like, I have a list of churches that I want to visit if I ever go to the Devil's Armpit, California. Several churches that are that I've come to know through people, either pastors or parishioners, on YouTube from their videos, and I've fallen in love with those people, and I love the spirit that lives within me, has recognized the spirit that lives within them, and I want to fellowship with them. There's congregations, Messianic synagogues in Israel I would love to revisit or visit for the first time, based on what I've seen. People do. I know that I'm not the only one. I know that I'm a nerd, but I'm not the only one. So, write to us. Yeah. Who knows? Maybe you're listening from Ankara, Turkey, and you want to go and visit the Kurtuluş Church because you heard about them here, or whatever. Yeah. So until next time.
Yeah.
God bless you and keep you and make His face shine upon you and give you peace.